Now, we're trying to, obviously this study, this research comes from reflecting on secondary schools, but I'm going to argue that the processes are pretty similar in primary schools as well. But what I thought we would do now is to try to sort of make certain we sort of franchise both groups of schools. I'm going to ask Trish Franey to come and sort of introduce a short sort of video clip of a school that she led and that she took through a similar process.
Thank you, David. What you will see is a clip, a snapshot really, of the school where I was principal. It's in the city of Bristol, which is a city that has many challenges, and those challenges were certainly reflected in this school. It was performing at 40% of children age 11 were actually achieving literacy and numeracy levels that would equip them successfully to work at secondary. So 4 out of 10 children were actually leaving the school with the appropriate literacy and numeracy levels. I don't need to tell you that that's 60% of children that are actually going into secondary unable to actually access the text level at secondary. There were also, in a sense, very deep socio and economic problems that were entrenched in that area. Most of the children came from single-parent families, so it was generally mums who were struggling and trying to create happy and meaningful environments for the children. It was ethnically diverse. It was an area where, in fact, the population was radically changing. It was an area that traditionally was a very working-class area. It had very low expectations of its children, and that was actually reflected in the school, where, in fact, the within-school variation, that's the variation of performance from classroom to classroom, was significantly different. There was a large inconsistency in terms of the quality of teaching. This video actually is really about how we pulled together and how we invested in each other and each other's adult learning in order to move this school forward. But I lay myself open to you as a principal because in effect you're going to reflect on what you're going to see here in terms of those 8 factors. And I guess that what you'll see will resonate with what you experience each day, and it's an opportunity for actually to have a dialogue around some of those 8 factors and what might happen in this school and what happens in your school. Just to actually, I'll give you a little bit more context about this school so that it actually makes sense when you see it anyway. You'll notice some very tiny children. The school took children from 2 up to 11. And we were a school that opened every single day of the year, apart from Christmas Day and Boxing Day, and we were open from 7 o'clock in the morning till 7 o'clock at night. So actually, in a sense, it was what I guess was called a wraparound school or an extended school, and we served breakfast to the children, and we served after-school tea and whatever. I didn't do that. There were different teams of people that came into the school to actually work with the children at different times. But in fact, it was significant because one of the problems that we had was attendance and punctuality. And actually, quite simply, we felt if they weren't in school, they weren't actually learning, so there was no way we were actually going to improve. So one of the things that we did was that we built a partnership with a football club, because I'm a great believer in sport being a really good motivator. And so we built a partnership with a football club, and actually what I said to them was, I want you to do football training at 7 o'clock in the morning. And actually, the kids whose attendance was atrocious were queued up because it was football training at 7, followed then by breakfast because they were ravenously hungry. And then what we did was, we had no men in the school. And of course, the children were from single parents who were mums. So actually what I did was, rather than advertise for dinner ladies, I actually advertised for sports coaches. And so what happened was the guys came forward, the football team trained the dinner ladies and the guys that came forward as football coaches. And suddenly their confidence in themselves, actually as learners, really excelled. And so we had a very, very rigorous sports programme going at lunchtime, which meant I didn't spend my afternoons with children lining up because they'd been throwing this, that and the other at the dinner ladies. But actually the dinner ladies had an enormous amount of influence on those children, because the children were just really impressed that they'd actually learnt to be football coaches, and actually didn't argue with them because they'd be sent off. So we used sport a great deal. The after school actually was very important too, but problematic, I'll be honest about that. That actually the provision that actually you create for a 3-year-old is entirely different for a 10 or 11-year-old. And so we had to create a sense of family whereby the older ones would actually look after the younger ones. And I guess, looking back, that's what we were trying to do, was to create a family, a community, where actually we were all learning. And that actually what we did was to try to create a confidence in the parents, not by punishing them because they couldn't do what middle-class parents did, which was listen to their children read every day. But actually what we wanted them to do was to talk about learning. So the things that we changed were that we never did send the reading books home, because actually all that did was create stress and tension in the mums who couldn't do it. We didn't have evening meetings for parents because it wasn't safe to come out in the evening. So why would they come to meetings where they felt unsafe or they had no one to look after their children? So we started to put everything into the actual day. So the classrooms became very open to parent consultation sessions while the teaching was actually going on, so that the child sat with the parent and had the consultation session, not the parent would come in the evening and then go home and think, I really still don't know how to help my child to learn. So have we got some? So here it is, and you're going to critique it so that against those 8 factors, and then ask some questions if necessary.